joined now by newly appointed Treaty United manager Tommy Barrett. Tommy, after a 12-month absence, we'll say, from the League of Ireland, we obviously hope to be back in the League of Ireland, but you're obviously delighted to be back involved in the top job in the Midwest region at the minute.
Yeah. Look, hopefully, he gets over the line, he gets started, and we get studs and grass as soon as possible. So it's good to be back and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a strange situation for you, Tommy, because obviously you were appointed as manager, but we won't know for maybe another 2 to 3 weeks for sure whether the club will be accepted into the first division for the 2021 season. It is a strange situation, and obviously very difficult as well in terms of trying to organise recruitment, training, venues, training. So that'll be a difficult task for you in the next few weeks, I assume.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason you have to, plan as if you are going to be in there, because, everyone else is back training already. So we've to at least try and recruit players and try to identify players anyway that can go in and hit the ground running as best as possible, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll say how important and how critical is it though for the club? Because obviously they had a women's under-17s and women's senior team last year, but for the development of the club and for senior soccer in Limerick, it's probably vital not to leave it go longer than 12 months without being in the Electricity League for in the men's side of it.
I think so, Adrian. Yeah, I think it's important that we have a senior men's team in the region. It's vital for the progression and development of young players in the region that they have somewhere to go and somewhere to play for, and somewhere to aim for. Particularly that it's not a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's probably not a very developed industry, football in this country. I think that's fair to say. So there's not many opportunities for young players to play in a professional league against professional players at a high level in the country, let alone the region. So for lads to travel, it's very difficult to get a place in a team, because clubs are, particularly in these times, budgets are tight, and they're not going to play people big money to young players big money to sign for them. So it's important that we have that opportunity for them here to do that.
And in various interviews with us in the past, Tommy, you mentioned your own vision maybe for a club in the Midwest region. Did the Treaty United model match your own, and was that vital for you in taking the job?
Yeah, it was, Adrian. Yeah, it's very important that we build a proper sustainable club. We keep saying that, and we use that word a lot, sustainable, because you need to build better links with the community, with colleges, sponsors, businesses. We need to build a proper club that has foundations set, and those foundations will last, and it'll be a constant. There won't be any off-field problems or off-field issues, because it's not just the last few years that there has been problems. Like, there's been problems with Limerick senior football for as long as I can remember, and as long as I was involved. So it's very important now that you get it right once and for all, and put a proper plan in place and proper infrastructure, and that's the most important thing for me, I think.
Obviously, Tommy, you have a lot of experience in dealing with young players as well. Obviously, we know from your time with Limerick FC, but also in dealing with, you have your own academy set up as well. You often have dealt with young players. That's obviously going to hold up a lot for you in terms of the new setup, because you're probably obviously not going to have a massive budget. We keep saying the word sustainable, so it's not going to be a budget thing. So you're going to probably have to develop players from a young age into the League of Ireland.
Yeah, I think you have to get it going now. There's 13 and 14-year-olds going to come in, and they're the lads you're going to be looking at. At 13, obviously, there'll be 15s and 17s and 19s teams as well. So, but you're definitely looking at a long-term plan. Of course, you mightn't see the immediate success in results on the pitch, but like, we're looking for success around the individuals first and foremost. And can we get lads through the next phases of their development and onto a first team, and then maybe further beyond, because, as I said yesterday, it's important that we start developing senior players in the region, and can we develop senior international players, like the likes of Galway. As I said, they had 3 lads in the last squad, they came from Galway. So if Galway can do it, why can't we do it, in a senior international squad? So we need to do that, and we need to all pull together, for soccer in the region, and can we make it about the players, and make it about the individuals. That's the most important thing. The players are the most important thing. People think it might sound a bit corny, but it isn't. It's a fact. It's about the players, and if we can get those individuals to the highest level possible that they can play at, then our job is done as far as I'm concerned, and we've something to be proud of then,
Yeah, and in terms of recruitment, Tommy, a lot of people will have the Limerick gaze on, and they'll say, look, you have the likes of Fairview Rangers at junior level did really well. There might be a few players that might step up. But we might miss out on the fact that the likes of maybe Clare, Kerry and Tipperary could be very important in terms of recruitment as well, because we do go on about having a strong team in the Midwest, and I know that the club is Limerick based, but we need to tap into those counties as well now.
Definitely, Adrian, and I will be looking towards Tipperary, Clare, Kerry and parts of North Cork as well, because we have to be careful as well that we don't look just at one team, because we've done it before, like in one or two teams, and you can decimate those clubs as well, and we have to have strong links with those clubs as well, because it is about building better relationship with leagues and clubs. Plus, a lot of the time you're looking at clubs and they might be really successful, but you might be looking for a player in that position. Like it's even with underage and junior, there's a lot of good players around clubs that mightn't be hugely successful, or they might be the most successful, but they might be very competitive. And those players want to play League of Ireland as well, and that's very important too. Sometimes very good junior players don't want to play League of Ireland for lots of different reasons, and that's fair enough too. So you got to have the right player that wants to do it, because it's a big commitment. It's a lot of bigger commitment than it is junior soccer. So we'll be looking for the right type of player, and players that want to come in first and foremost. That's the main thing.
Yeah, obviously as well, on top of appointing yourself, the club has been busy has changed both management setups maybe at senior level and under 17s, but they've appointed Niall Connolly. You have the likes of Sean Russell involved now as well. You've Maura Curtin. It seems to have been that they've went for a young and energetic coaching staff along the whole club, which was probably a pleasing thing as well, in that a lot of League of Ireland clubs you tend to go for the status quo and stick with what but obviously the club have been brave in who they've appointed as well.
Yeah, it's great for the women's. Look, the women's were the flag bearers for senior soccer in the region last year, and it's very important that they got in last year, and I don't think we would have had the opportunity to get in this year even if the women didn't go in last year, and a lot of credit goes to the Women's Committee and Dave Rooney and Irene at that time as well, along with the committee and the board, obviously, to get that up and running, because that is definitely vital now, considering where we're at, and it was so important. So, I think the lads will do. There's a great team of coaches in there, and the under 17 seem to have pointed well as well. They've recruited very well. So women's sport is growing and women's soccer is growing, and it's great to see that. And we'll be as supportive as we can there as well, and we'll be all one club, and we'll be all pulling in one direction. Yeah,
I spoke about the backroom team that Niall has assembled. Tommy, obviously you're in negotiations, I suppose, with backroom members as well. Do you expect that to be concluded soon?
Yeah, I think we'll get it done the next week. So just a few loose ends to tie up, and we'll get that done next week.
Yeah, you had a tough start to life as well in management, in terms of more so off the field than on the field. For a young manager, it probably wasn't something you were thrown in at the deep end, for the want of a better term, for the 2 years with Limerick FC. But do you think, looking back on it now, I know you won't ever say it was a positive experience really, but looking back on it now, is it a good thing that at that stage of your career, that early as well, that you had that experience?
I think it's always good to have that experience. I could have done some things differently myself. Obviously, you learn as you go along. But I think in the main, 2018, the Premier League, we did quite well. The players did very well. I think the players played very well, and we lost a lot of professional players halfway through the season, and we still managed to stay up in stay in the playoff situation. And Finn Harps resoundingly beat us, to be fair, in the second leg. I thought in the first leg we probably should have won that, and that killed us then going back to Limerick. But in the second leg we just didn't play, we just didn't perform to our best ability on that day, and that's the way it goes, But in hindsight, I think even getting to the playoffs was a really good result for that year, because with the 10 or 12 players we lost, and Bray had a reasonable budget still. I think we gave it a good go till the end. I thought in the first division we were very, very good, for most of the season. I think we were heading for a playoff position on a real, on an amateur squad, and a lot of young players, and a couple of experienced lads obviously as well. But then, as you said, as you touched on, we don't want to focus on too many negatives, but it kind of went a bit pear-shaped off the pitch, and then when you get one bad result, then lads lose their heads and players go, and it, the whole atmosphere wasn't great, to be quite honest, around there. But we just stuck together and saw out the season as best we could. But I every player that I've had, has worked hard for the jersey and played as well as they could. I couldn't fault any of them, and they did really well considering. And a lot of young players got to experience League of Ireland football. So I suppose that's what I would be most proud of. And sticking it out as well, I think it showed a bit of resilience to do that, because I think a lot of people probably would have walked as well, But in saying that, you have to go forward now, and you have to look to the future and see, can you learn from the past, and you probably need to go at it and just forget about the past and obviously learn from mistakes, but you need to go at it with a positive energy and create that positive vibe around the place, because it is so important in a club that you go at it with positivity, and everyone is behind it, because that does create a huge atmosphere, even with no crowds, and even with no crowds at games and fans at games. Obviously that's better when there's a positive energy around the stadium, but even around the town and the region, if there's goodwill towards a club, it really helps. It helps in every way.
Yeah, obviously turning our attention back to the first division of 2021, you're going to have some obviously very strong squads, Tommy, in there as well, as usual, really at the top end. Shelbourne, Galway, both going to be full time. You'll obviously have Bray as well. UCD generally always seem to be strong at first division level. Would the message be that it's got to be the message has to be from yourself, that it's got to be people have got to be patient, and without sounding too negative, expectations can't be too high, because at the end of the day, the focus probably has to be on just having a team back in the League of Ireland now, and building the structure really, without trying to, on the field, it's going to take some time.
I think it is. Expectations can't be too high, but at the same time, you want to do as best as you possibly can, and that's all you can do. That's what you have to aim for. There's no point in going out if you think you're going to lose matches every week either. So you have to go with a positive attitude, as I said earlier. And that's so important, no matter what time. Of course, we're behind everyone else. They're like the 4 or 5 teams there, as you said, at least 3 teams full-time professional. All the other teams are professional as far as I know, bar maybe Cove, who have some amateur players as well as professional, and Wexford and like Athlone are all professional players as well. Some of the other clubs are full-time professional, where the other lads are part-time professional. Treaty are going to be, we're going to be wholly amateur, particularly in the first year, because again, it's about putting that sustainable model in place, and Treaty, we need to do that, because it's important that you don't go into it and think you're going to spend money here and there and get in players and give players money that you can't afford, because it can't go wrong. It has to be right, and that in itself, getting a good solid year behind you is progression, and it's a positive for me anyway.
Yeah, I heard Pat O'Sullivan, Tommy, on the radio briefly this morning, and obviously Limerick FC have applied as well to enter the Electricity League underage. We know they had a 15s and 17s teams in the Electricity League last year. Obviously, your focus will be solely on Treaty now, but it's a funny one. Will it be a very odd situation to have 2 Limerick sides in underage competition next year, if that does come to pan?
Yeah, but there's two teams down in Cork. There was two up in Galway for a while. There was, there's a lot of teams up in Dublin. So, it's just the way it is. It does give other young players an opportunity, I suppose, more young players to play at a higher level. And I suppose as long as everything is done right and all the criteria is met and the clubs are run right, you can't really complain about it,
Yeah, and to finish on a positive note, Tommy, I know we've had plenty of discussions in the past about maybe Limerick players playing in the League of Ireland, and as well also the fact that we haven't produced an international in so many years. But there was great positive news earlier this week in that Dara Costello, who was former Ashling and Academy underage player, signed for Burnley, which was obviously, we send our congratulations to him. But it was a great story. I know he was with Galway, but being a Limerick native, obviously that's a good sign for us, and hopefully that continues into the future.
Yeah, definitely. It's vital that we get or have players like Dara going across to England and Europe and playing at the highest level that they possibly can, and we have to encourage that. And hopefully it's a tough gig. Obviously, it's a Premier League club, but it's brilliant for him. It's fantastic, and it's tough, obviously, to get into a Premier League team. But hopefully he can, and if he doesn't, that he gets into the next level and he stays in the game, because that's important too. That he might drop down the leagues in England to get more experience or be put out on loan and those type of things. Or we have lads that went to England in the past from the region, have came back and played League of Ireland, that had huge successful careers. But the focus now should be for Dara is doing as best as he can in the development squad and getting into that Burnley squad, and that would be fantastic for him. And I wish him all the best in the world and hope he does.
We had unbelievable traction, actually, Tommy, for the announcement of Dara going abroad, to play in England. It got hundreds of likes on Twitter and Facebook alike. Also, Paddy, one of the players you would have had time with Limerick FC, Paddy O'Connor with Bradford. I know he won League 2 Player of the Month recently, and that got an awful lot of interest and traction as well. So it just shows you that the potential is there once you provide a model for people to support, that the potential for soccer is massive in Limerick.
Yeah, it does. Look, and I don't know Dara Costello too well at all. I just know he played against us when he was young and with Limerick that time, and he was very good. I think he scored in the Markets Field. I think we beat Galway 2-1. I think he scored. He was decent that day. I think he was only 16 or so, but he seems like a good prospect, and the attitude he has and shown even to travel up to Galway, and that was really good, and he wanted to be in the league, and that's the most important part. We see with Paddy when he was 16, when he came in, we identified it. I remember saying very early that he was one that definitely could go to England, or beyond, have a career in the professional game. We don't want to focus too much on England, because, he can have a good career in Ireland and Europe as well. So we have to look at not just England all the time, but we definitely thought he could be a professional player at the time. And a lot of it was down to how he went about his business with himself, on the field and off the field. He was a leader very early on, and he was committed solely to soccer at 16 years of age, and he looked after himself, and he had that drive and ambition, and he's always willing to learn, and a good lad about the place, and they're at times are the most important things, because a lot of these lads can be very good technically and tactically a lot of the time, but it's that resilience and that extra bit that will get you there and get you through, when you take in knocks. And, it's not an easy trade being a professional footballer. I'd imagine, I was never a full-time professional footballer, but I can imagine it's really, really difficult, and it's a difficult gig, and people don't realise that. And you have to be a real resilient person and a real strong character to last in the game.